holiday season, bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat!
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God!
Oh, poor baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN bring the joy of Christmas to your home.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Catch the spirit, catch the joy.
Anchors away. May the force be with you.
Only on WESN, your content capital.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Fan Zone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa, debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today. SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands, and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
WESN.
Welcome to another week. Welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Hope all is well with you as we start off another edition of the program. My first guest this morning joined me a couple weeks ago to speak about social media and the pros and cons associated with social media use and teenagers. Well, since then, there have been conversations surrounding a possibility of implementing an age limit or age restriction to those who can use social media. Now, there's currently no legislative agenda in Trinidad and Tobago suggesting that this would happen anytime soon. But Keith Scotland, Minister in the Ministry of National Security, raised this point as one avenue for addressing cybercrime, particularly cyberbullying. It is something that is currently being explored in Australia. But what are the pros and cons? Is it beneficial? Or is it a responsible way to deal with the situation? I'm joined this morning by Sule Joseph once more on AM Prime. Good morning, Mr. Joseph, and welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Mr. Sir. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Sir, that's a new one. How are you doing? How are things?
I am well. I'm battling this flu. I think is going around, so I'm trying hard not to get it.
I think there is something referred to as the Monday morning flu, or at least they should be, because every Monday morning all of us feel it. We certainly hope you feel better soon, and thanks for joining us. This is something, a ban on social media is something that we explored in our previous discussion. This one looks to restrict the use of social medias, at least according to Australian law, for those who are 16 years and under. Nothing concrete in TNT is yet, but a possibility, something that is being explored, an idea that is being explored. On the basis of it, do you think that this particular idea holds merit in dealing with instances of cyberbullying?
All right, so I can only tackle this conversation from a space of my expertise, which is psychologically, and I can hazard a guess, just like any armchair politician or any armchair person who may want to think that hopefully, yes, if you don't have access to the internet, then or to social media platforms, then you can't bully on a social media platform, at least on the face of it. But as we would see, for example, in the US, in certain parts of the US where they've banned TikTok, what youth have done is found ways around those bans. Companies like Netflix that restrict certain shows and programming based on your location. Persons what have done is found ways around those restrictions. So on the face of it, I guess it makes sense that if they don't have access to social media, basically you don't have access to it, then you can't use it or misuse it to bully on the face of it. But practically speaking, what we've seen is something opposite. We found that youth have been able to find ways to navigate and to get around that. So I don't know if it really addresses the root of the problem. It attempts to at least mitigate it at some level, essentially.
Well, it sounds as though it comes across as a 20th century solution to a 21st century problem. If I understand the direction that you are responding to the first question. But again, coming back to the issue at hand, if social media has become a part of everyday life, or consumption of internet has become a part of everyday life, whether it be for recreational purposes or even for work purposes, do you think that, given, as you mentioned, teenagers always seem to find a way, and they always seem, the creativity in navigating these situations always seem to come out when there are limitations or restrictions, is this really something that it could be seen as beneficial in any way at all? I know you mentioned, well, possibly on the basis of it, you could say any sort of ban or restriction might sort of hinder any activity. But then and again, everybody always finds a way around these things.
This is how I view it, Keaton. To me, it's a microwave solution to a deep-rooted issue. And when I say a microwave solution, I mean a quick fix. It's you pop it in the microwave and you put it on for a couple of seconds and you heat it up and you feel right, it's good. But if it resolves the actual root of the issue, I don't know that it does, because blocking children from being able to access social media does not address the root of bullying, does it? It doesn't address the issues of bullying. It doesn't stop bullying. Bullying may just now take other forms. Even if they can't do it on social media, it will happen elsewhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't address the root. I'm not saying that it's a terrible idea, that youth should be restricted. I'm saying that it should definitely be in conjunction with other more deep-rooted programs or interventions to be able to address and arrest the root of the issue. All right. Else, what you're going to have, as you pointed out so eloquently, is you're going to find youth finding alternative ways to bully or to get around the program, and you're just going to feed creativity, right? They're just going to get more creative. When you start wearing T-shirts with bullying on it, or printing T-shirts with bullying on it, what you're going to do then? Ban them from wearing T-shirts? So, I understand restricting them and restricting the use on social media. And as we get along, maybe a little bit further in the program, I'll explain why psychologically, right? I do understand it, but as I said, it has to be a real small part of a much larger intervention plan. All right. It's like saying you're going to use an SOE as the solution for crime. You're going to shut down Trinidad and Tobago, all imports, exports, everything going to shut down, and that's your crime plan solution. Okay, but I mean, long term, it does not address the root of what the issues are. It's a very surface level, and what you're going to do is you're going to find people become more creative to do this crime more underground as time progresses and it goes on. It's definitely not. It's a very surface level fix.
How do you actually propose a healthy way to dealing with this situation in particular? Because, as you mentioned, this cannot be the only part of a wider solution. Is the need for creating safer spaces or even for digital literacy education something that needs to be strongly considered as to being more part of this conversation?
Of course. In the US, and you'll forgive me, I hope I don't get a program shut down for this. In the US, they have some of the largest numbers of mass school shootings and so on record. But the US is not the only place with open gun laws. All right, we have other countries that have open gun laws, and we don't see those high levels of mass shootings. So when people call for maybe, I don't know, the eradications of firearms in the US, I don't know if that will necessarily resolve the issue. If it's more difficult to obtain it, maybe, but I don't know if that resolves the issue, where we have countries where people use it safely. And the difference really is there, that they recognize that this weapon could be something used for evil or used misappropriated and so on or whatever, and they have a culture. What you do is you teach people about this, using it in a safe way, and you generate a culture of respect and so on. And so I'm bringing that to say this about the cyberspace. If you can do that for firearms, then you can do that for social media. You can teach children about safe spaces, how to utilize social media safely, the purposes of social media, the significant impact and effects of speaking out on social media and sharing certain information and cyberbullying, because there's a natural phenomenon that occurs with social media where you feel emboldened to say whatever and whenever because you feel as though it's not real. You become a keyboard warrior, as some people call it, right? There's a distance between you and the other person. And whereas you may not have told someone that to their faces, it might be easier to say it on social media because you just type it on the keys and leave it. All right, and it feels almost like it's not real. There's no a real consequence for doing it in cyberspace. Those are things that need to be addressed. And blocking it, not going to address that, is it?
I'm curious to know, as part of this, and we've spoken before of something of social media addiction that is a part of the problem. If young teenagers are already addicted to social media use, and they cannot go without consumption of social media on a daily basis, what could be the possible side effects to actually implementing a ban on those who are already hooked to, well, what could be seen as their drug?
I would like to assume, perhaps, I can't say definitely because I have not read any research on persons going cold turkey from social media withdrawals and so on and what it may look like, but I can only assume from any other addiction or persons functioning in an addict capacity, the withdrawals might be somewhat similar. All right, so high agitation, irritability. Again, persons will be vigorously attempting to find ways around the block, going cold turkey and so on. Now, this is, and as I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you want to get them detoxed from this significant attachment. But I feel like it should be part of a larger plan, right? A larger intervention where you're still teaching them about safe spaces, where you know, some kind of social and psychological program for implementation occurs simultaneously with this idea. Because what tends to happen is when you have that hole, if anybody watching feels as though they're addicted to anything, there's something that you do religiously. When there's this hole, when you can't do what you want to do, generally it needs to be filled with something, right? And if you then remove this from them cold turkey and there's nothing and you've left a hole, most likely they will find something equally disruptive and destructive to fill the hole. It's not like they're going to fill the hole with schoolwork. It's not like they're going to fill the hole with studying and exams and focus on school and sports and so on. That's not going to happen. That's not what happens naturally. You need something equally disruptive or equally addictive to fill that space, that chasm for you. And so all we're doing is kicking the can down the road and pushing them into another addiction. All right? So it needs to be a program with a holistic approach to addressing this particular issue.
Who should or where should the primary responsibility of burden lay in an instance like this? One could argue parents may be trying and are finding it very difficult, struggling. But where does the primary responsibility lay? Governments, authorities, or those who create and develop these products to create safe spaces and for digital literacy and education?
I don't know. If you took a look at the investigations into Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and some of the accusations and so on that were made, the U.S. Congress would have done some the investigations were done and I don't know, based on looking at that, if some of these social media companies can be depended on to be part of the solution to the problems that they've created. I don't know if what their objectives, if their general objectives of the company are in alignment with what we are asking for youth not to be addicted to a product that they have designed to be addictive, right? As part of their the overarching marketing plan and strategy and product placement is designed to be addictive. And so if you're asking the people who've designed the problem, you're asking, are you going to ask the man selling drugs to reduce the content in the drugs so that people don't buy it as much? I can't see how, how that would be counterproductive to their interests. But I do think that this needs to be, as I mentioned, a multi-approached or multi-pronged plan. And so parents should definitely be involved with your children. But I do feel like government agencies and NGOs, private sector, because it's an issue that affects persons so significantly, particularly youth, I do feel like more parts of our sector, our society, need to kind of come together to support an intervention in this regard. All right. So it needs to just be more than the government doing this thing, or it needs to be more than just parents alone doing it, because parents need a framework for support, and that framework for support should be national. That should come from the government or government agencies. But parents need to do a part as well. The government can't be parenting your child at home. Right, that kind of thing, and parents by themselves also need support, whether it be some kind of social support group or church or whatever. So I'm saying it really does need to be a multi-pronged approach for us to address and arrest this issue. Because yes, you're quite right. We're dealing with youth who are also addicts to this product.
You just use the word intervention, which in this particular instance could be deemed as quite a strong use of language. But has it come to that point where it is an intervention that is necessary, where we can't speak of this being a proactive approach, but more so of an intervention?
Oh yes, definitely. The horse has left the stable a long time ago. I mentioned earlier in the interview, I'll talk about a psychological impact, and I'm going to do that now. Generally, when we talk about your child's personality forming and so on, Freud talks about your personality of a child forming from ages 0 to 7. And I'll push that back even a little bit more. Let's say for the late bloomer, 8 to 10 maybe. All right, so let's reach about 10. And in that space, generally, your child the formation of their personality is based on the values that you are teaching them, the values that you've given, you've input. This is what you've taught your child. This is formation, the foundation of who they are, right? The values you've taught. After that, the child is now looking at the values that society and their friends are giving, right? And so the society and your friends input in values. And then after that, they then now try to find a balance between the values the parents have given them in the initial stages versus the values the society and their friends have given them. And they try to find themselves somewhere between that mix. That's how you develop yourself. But what happens when the parents have not produced or given enough values in an early stage, and you now have access to international values across the globe that your parents have not prepared you to address? Now you are getting values from across the globe. You are getting values from every and any corner of society, right? And those values now are coming fast and furious and outmatch any values that you would have been given, if at all, by your parents in the early stages, right? So you have very little platform and foundation on which to rest all of these extra and additional values. So what now you find happening is you find children values are switching and flopping and so on between what social media and the internet and so on shares, because that's the only values that they're getting. How do you develop your personality when that's the only values you have to form? That's where it comes from. So I am saying I can agree with limiting social media access to youth under a certain age, because some of them may not have the foundation to be able to withstand or to filter certain values that are coming rapidly at them at that age, right? Which can lead to things like bullying and aggressive behaviors on social media and all of those things. So on the face of it, yes, but by itself, that does very little, because the horse is less stable. You have children accessing these values from under the age of 16, under the age of 10, right? Some children under the age of 7, right? When you leave your children unsupervised to access to play with their tablets and so on. So now international and values and social media values are what are raising your children, are creating a platform, right? So to take that now cold turkey away from children, I think by itself is a bit late for that. The addiction has formulated. Children are dependent on certain aspects of social media. What are you going to do? Now, the other thing is you can't put an all-out ban on every possible type of social media platform, right? You can pass legislation, yes, but every Monday morning a new social media platform is being developed. So what it would mean is that you need whoever is responsible for this, whether it be Ministry of National Security or I don't know, ICNTT or whomever, they would need to regularly be checking the new platforms that come up and then blocking those. And one thing we can say very comfortably about or services in Trinidad and Tobago, while some may be quite good in idea initially and the initial startup, our continued follow-through seems to be, I can't find the appropriate word.
It's not desirable. Yeah. Let's try and be diplomatic about it. Less than desirable.
Right? Yeah, our continued follow-up is not the very best. All right. So those are things I think you need to need to be given thought to when we're talking about programs like these. Because then you're saying you're going to pull an addict out, put them cold turkey, and then you're not going to. How well are you going to follow up to ensure that there are no new platforms for them to switch over to fill the hole with? Yeah, I by itself, I really don't see this as the working the way that persons probably think it will.
Well, Sule, I wish to expand a bit further in this morning's conversation. We have reached that point where time does not permit, but certainly it gives you something. You've left us with a lot to think about in respect to a suite of ideas or a suite of ideologies that are necessary to have this sort of intervention. Because as you mentioned, the horse has already left the stable. But thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. And all the very best to you. We can only see how this happens. It's being tested currently in Australia. Let's see what are the impacts there. But as you mentioned, cultural values are very, very important. And what may impact a child in Australia may not necessarily be beneficial for children down here in Trinidad and Tobago. So thank you very much for that point in particular. And we look to further this conversation very soon.
Thanks for having me.
All the best. Take care. Feel better soon.
Right. Take care, Keita. Take care, the rest of Trinidad and Tobago. Have a blessed day.
That was Sule Joseph for joining us on the program. And you can look up the site on WESN every week with really stimulating conversations about your mind, mental wellness and well-being. And of course, just a human approach to dealing with these situations or having these conversations, which are very important. So thank you very much to Sule once more. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on AM Prime. And when we return, we've got lots more to get into this morning. Stay with us.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands, and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for being with us this morning. Last week, I was reading with a sense of dismay the news of the possibility that the Trinidad and Tobago International Marathon would be retired. I use the word possibility because since then, we've learned of efforts to try and ensure that it does not happen. But a social media post suggested that after how many years? It's since 1983, actually, the marathon has been in place. So I think it's close to 40 years. But for the very first time, it may not happen. Now, as I mentioned, it first started in 1983. And for the first 6 years, it was known as the Mirror Guinness Marathon. Sunshine Cornflakes, so Sunshine the Cereal Cornflakes took over a sponsorship between 1989 and 1995. And for 15 years, from 1996 to 2010, Clico was the main financial backer. But since 2010, there have been no major sponsors, and that has been an issue with the International Marathon being able to actually happen. So this morning, I'm joined on the program by the chairperson of the Trinidad and Tobago Marathon Committee, Ms. Diane Henderson. Good morning, Ms. Henderson, and welcome to the program.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. So I gave a brief history, actually, of the marathon, very brief history. But I mentioned that there have been no mainstay sponsors since 2010, 2011. Has it gotten so severe to the point that retirement seemed to be the only option for this particular event and initiative?
Okay, so let me just first of all clarify. It's not that we didn't have any sponsors. We've had several sponsors throughout the years, the 15 years that we've been doing the race, because it would not have been possible without them. Flo had it for a couple of years, and they were there successfully. We've had KISS along the way. In terms of sponsors, we've had more than one who have maintained the race throughout the years. So, you know, NLCB, NGC, several sponsors have come on board and stayed, but they've never carried the entire race for a few years on their own, like Clico did. And understandably, I mean, there's no expectation that one sponsor has to do it. You could have one or two sponsors and share the whole brand. So, you know, I don't know that it has reached that dire need. The whole thing is that we're all getting older. We all have different responsibilities at particular time. And, you know, there's just a time that you have to say, you know, you've done what you can do with the brand and with the event. And maybe it's time to just, we always were thinking of succession planning. And, you know, I have become a lot more busy, and, you know, the whole thing about it is that it's just the time. The time has been lingering, you know, for 1 or 2 years, the thought of it. And I think now is just the time that it has to happen and pass on that succession, so that the race, fresh mind, fresh air, fresh everything, and just carry on the race as it should be. The important thing is, I think, that, you know, we love the race a lot. It breaks my heart if it has to stop, and therefore we're very pleased that there have been 1 or 2 expressions of interest, you know, to carry it forward. And that's the most important thing, that it doesn't die here.
So tell me about, let's start with the previous point, Bruce, and that is succession planning. The Marathon Committee, I mean, how did it come into fruition, and what has that succession planning been like? Even though since this story, it's piqued interest, have you been able to pique the interest of those who might be able to take over the logistics side of this?
Yes, I think so. I don't think there have been people in the sporting and distance running or event management circles that have expressed, you know, gosh, you know, They know that it's a challenge to carry on. It's not a 5K, it's not a pop-up run. It's a Trinidad and Tobago International Marathon. This marathon, and another point which we could pick up later, is that should have national status from a government perspective. But before that, the whole thing about it is because of that interest, the members have expressed that they are willing to, different people are willing to take it up. And therefore, a lot more has to go into it. I think that's one of the issues, there have been discussions previously, but we never really sat down and said, okay, this is the way we want to go. So now, that just sealed that, okay, definitely there are interests, solid interests, which, is in writing, and therefore then we know that we're on a footing to move forward. Before it was just conversation, to answer that question.
So now that these commitments exist, work is being done to try and at least have an edition in 2025, possibility that can happen.
Right. So that decision is not mine, but we can try and make sure that they can do it. The discussions are being held presently, and arrangements being made to be documented and to be passed on, so that that could be solidified in a proper manner, because it is a brand handover, and yes, we hope that no matter the month that is chosen, that an event can be held. I mean, there's no holding. The reasons for, people still ask about why the January, but they don't understand. If they go and check the weather is coolest in January. That's why it was held then. And they complain about the heat. Living in your country for how many years, get accustomed to the heat. But we all know that the heat now, because of the climate change, is different than how it was 10 years ago. So, but yeah, January is the coolest month. And for the runners' sake, I hope they go back to it. But I mean, not necessarily in 2025. This year we had to have it in March because of delays again with time and so to organize. So yeah.
A very practical approach indeed, a very wise approach indeed. You're right, it's amazing. We're living in this country and we still don't understand the seasons and how they impact weather or even our ability to do things. But on a different note, I'd like to come back to a previous point you were making. What really, if any at all, is government's role in the hosting of this particular initiative? And in fact, if so, what further role needs to be played?
All right, let's just bring the National Athletics Administration and first the entries, because I was a member of the entries in the 1990s. I say because of the distance running arm or fraternity wanted the entries since that time to be put a little bit more focus on distance running. We went in there to try and get systems in place for distance running. Subsequently, this improved a little bit, and we quite sprint based. So for a very long time, just minimal activities were being held. They had some certain cross countries always there, and I think that it was left up to the clubs and those others that hosted distance races to continue growing and developing the road race. We really have to thank Athletic Central and Trinidad and Tobago Roadrunners Club for being the initial clubs that actually got the road and distance running fraternity and that whole environment off, that whole wellness. Come and run, just participate, do that. Now it is like every post-COVID, you have every single company wanting to have their own health thing. And I'm sure it is from an internal perspective, wanting their employees to be healthy. And starting from that perspective, then you have it public and doing and choosing charities and so forth. That's the way to go. The whole thing about it is that the marathon is more than that. It is a national icon. It needs to, we've always thought that it needed the attention of the major parties. We were doing our role of upkeeping the race because of its history, because of all the work that the others before us have put in, because of our passion for sport. You know, so the whole thing about it is that we love the race and we'll always be around it. But we feel that it is such an icon that it needs more attention from those that can take it up and carry it forward. It's a tourism, it can be that, and even more. It has been that. We have had countries, I mean, in 1 year, you have 27, 30 countries participating, you know, from all as far as Japan and everywhere, whether it's one athlete, one runner, or what. We've had 27 or 30 countries participating in one marathon. So, and over the years, that has always been fluent. You know, you get different ups and downs, but the whole thing about it is, the word is out there. I have communication already that is always, you know, the interest from outside to come and do. I expressed some time ago in a meeting that the roads are a venue. We need to recognize that our roads, our trails are a venue. And people come to this country to go and hike. People come to this country to see birds. People come to this country, and we need to recognize what the average person outside of Trinidad and Tobago comes to do. You know, we have a different, because of our positioning, and so we are a different interest than some of just the beach countries, you know, in the Caribbean. So we need to recognize it and really, really get the data on what that does for us.
I knew it was an international marathon that attracted many, but 27 to 30 countries on our small little island. That is absolutely incredible. But it shows the significance of the role that the international marathon plays in TNT and for sport in TNT. I want to come back to the point that you were making previously, though, in terms of the logistics. You said that you have written communication already suggesting that there is interest. To what extent are these serious commitments where there is some future, at least, for the international marathon to happen?
Well, you know, it's written interest. It's not giving details of anything. The important thing is that, yes, we know that the persons that we have been involved with race organizing as well as distance running in the past. So they have that interest. We believe that they will carry it on, you know, and they maybe have the connections and the maybe some links to sponsors already. In fact, I have also gotten links to sponsors since that release went out. But it's whether or not I have a sponsor today that's willing to give me $1 million to carry out a top-notch race. That's not the point. We no longer want to do it. We want somebody else, and this is the opportunity now to pass it on. You know, we'll hand over the sponsor to the new person if that is it, that requires.
What do you think is necessary to get more people involved in this organization? I mean, how can we attract people to be more involved or more a part of this? I very much understand the point that you're putting forward, but what is it that can be done in terms of an intervention, in terms of solutions?
You know, the New York Marathon didn't reach 25,000 people in 1 day or 1 year. It took many years. Now, yes, it took many years, but then they have specific sponsorship. The Barbados Marathon, their tourism does it with them. The organizer is a partner in the organizer. In Jamaica, the tourism runs the race, organizes with partnership in the organizers. You have to look at the whole makeup on what drives it. But other than that, then there's the marketing of the race, of course, right? So it takes years, but from a structure that is supported in a particular way. This has been totally private, just, you know, our passion and our interest making sure that we can carry on this race for the national interest for years. You know, so you know, I see no reason why I can't just say, hey, this is it for me. You know, it's
Well, I
my,
mean, that's very much understand. I mean,
of course.
you know, you, for example, your entire life has been around sports and sports development, you know, but the thing is, does that not bother you that it comes to a point where there is so much of a lack of interest that these iconic events may be lost simply due to time?
You know, and I don't think somebody has to tell me what other activity or something in Trinidad and Tobago has lasted 42 years. But yes, definitely, I think that I am concerned. Yes, but not to the point where I feel that I must run myself to the ground anymore for it. There's a point where you need to say, you know, that's it. You know, but of course, it's that's why I said in the beginning, you know, it breaks my heart that, you know, this has to happen. However, I have confidence. I have confidence that it will be brought up. I don't know how many years it will be held. That all depends on the backing and the support that the new host would have and gain. I'm hoping from all the attention that has been seen throughout the last few days, in the last week, that it would get the necessary attention to carry it forward, you know, on a sustained trajectory.
So, what at this particular point, how can people reach out to even the committee to try and see how best they can to be a part of this and be a part of this continuing? You know, because nobody can blame you for your approach, Ms. Henderson, but what is it that is at this particular point in time can be done? How can people reach out to express where their interests?
Yeah, I'm sure many people have my contact, but other than that, we have the site, we have social media, we have our site and our Facebook page. You can message and just, you know, we'll check it, you know, and get back. I'm not going to give my number publicly right now. It's already too you know, popularized. But so yeah, they can reach me. They know they can reach me, and they see me outside there. So
well, it was easy for us to get in contact with you, which is fantastic. But I tell you, you seem so frustrated. It is not just a matter of being tired after putting in so many years. And you're right, don't extend it. But you do seem very frustrated as well. There seems to be a sense of frustration with this.
Frustration. I don't think it's frustration. I think it's you know, I don't know if that's a word, but maybe as you say, at your wit's end, it's the energy. Do we have 15 years on at the energy to carry on something that you had that was, you know, at that time years ago? As I say, everything wanes as you grow older, and I mean, I'm not putting that age, you know, is age is a number, but at the same time, I have a different philosophy in age and physical exercise. You know, you have to continue until you're 80. But you know, so no, it's just that, you know, I think in order to give space in your life for other things as well, you have to recognize how much time and space you have. Responsibilities change and you have to accommodate for that. It wouldn't be right if you're giving piece of yourself, and from the time you realize you can't give 100%, I think that's the time. You know, there's no excuse for wanting to give 100%, and if you can't give 100% again, you know, then hand it over.
Well, before we do leave, or before we do part, I'm curious to know, since this particular announcement, have any sort of agencies or those in authority reached out to the committee, has the committee reached out to those in authority for them to try and realize, hold on, this is probably our responsibility now? Has there been any sort of support from such institutions?
Unofficially, I think someone reached out just to ask a question or two, but not officially.
My goodness. Well, I hope that changes. I really hope that changes. 42 years, and I hope there's more to come. Ms. Henderson, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
And not just this morning, your time for the years past and giving your best, and all those who are part of the committee giving their best towards sports in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you for expressing that. Thank you very much.
All the best. Ladies and gentlemen, please reach out to the Marathon Committee. As Ms. Henderson mentioned, it's very simple. You can Google it. Social media will pop up. Website will pop up. And contact them if you are interested, of course, in ensuring that the International Marathon continues. It speaks, though, and this is very important, to how generations change, how everything evolves. More young people need to get involved in these things. It's amazing. This morning we spoke about social media use. But what about socializing? And a huge part of that are events like these. I mean, 27 to 30 countries coming to our small island republic to participate. That is incredible. I really hope that there is a future, but I hope there is a future for the International Marathon. Let's take a break here on the program, ladies and gentlemen. We will return shortly.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you very much for being with us this morning as we continue the conversation. So another major event is taking place this Saturday, the 23rd of November from 2 p.m. To 5 p.m. The People's Roundtable will be hosting its second major activity, the Civil Society Summit on Governance. And this discussion actually will be hybrid, so it allows for everyone to participate. No excuses. I'm joined this morning by the political leader of the Movement for Social Justice, Mr. David Abdullah. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program.
Morning, Keaton, and morning to all of those who are tuned in. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Abdullah, the second major event or activity on the part of the People's Roundtable, which focuses on civil society and governance in Trinidad and Tobago. Could you give us a breakdown of this event and what is expected of this event?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And of course, in the People's Roundtable, I function in my capacity as convener and not as political leader. The MSJ. That's another hat. I try to separate my my responsibilities in that way. But you know that there was the National Advisory Committee on Constitutional Reform that was set up by the government last year sometime. And they submitted a report, I think it was in June or maybe July of this year. And it's available on their website and so on. Quite a lengthy report. The Prime Minister indicated that subsequent to receiving that report, there would be national consultations. He made a commitment, public commitment on that. 4, 5, 6 months have passed, and there's been not a word about these consultations. Nothing in the budget speech by anybody, and so on. And quite apart from that, we know that what the PNM did was to have their own process, which is fine. They could internally have their own process for constitutional reform, but they ought to have then submitted their recommendations to the National Committee so that the National Committee could have considered what they said. But rather than do that, the PNM called some special gathering at which they announced their position, which really also shut down a number of the recommendations or proposals made by the National Advisory Committee. So what is important is the need for constitutional reform, because the last time we had major constitutional reform, of course, we have been tinkering, so we've been adding things as we have gone along. But in terms of taking a holistic look at the Constitution, the last time that took place and put into effect was when the Republican Constitution came into reality in 1976. And since then, we have not had a completed process. Yes, under the NER, there was a higher tally commission that looked at it, but that didn't get very far. And then there were other efforts. The Manning government had a number of initiatives and so on, and there was a lot of activity around that, but that also didn't result in any significant change, and the partnership also had a process as well. So constitutional reform has been on the formal agenda, if you wish, not necessarily the layman's ordinary person's agenda, but the formal agenda, certainly going back 30 odd years. What has also happened is that we talk about matters, whether it is how is Forex allocated, what's the role of the central bank, the relationship between that and the Minister of Finance and so on. The issue of the Salaries Review Commission, right, which is a constitutionally established body. People don't think about it like that, but as a constitutionally established body with a particular responsibility. But what is the process by which they make recommendations and so on, and how do those recommendations go forward to cabinet, to parliament, etc., etc. That's a matter of constitutional discussion and governance, fundamentally of governance, because governance is broader than just the constitution. How, for example, are our energy resources being managed? That's a matter of governance, yes? So in fact, there's crime and violence. How is the Commissioner of Police appointed? That is a matter of governance. We just had appointed a new Police Service Commission. Was there any indication by the President of why the past Service Commission members were removed and a new one was appointed and so on? We don't know. That's a matter of governance. So really and truly, governance affects all of us in our daily lives, and the Constitution impacts on that. But we have not had from civil society and ordinary citizens an understanding of how they feel about where we are as a country. And so the People's Roundtable decided that we ought to have a civil society summit, as we call it, on governance. And we have confirmed 3 speakers. There's a fourth presentation that is confirmed, but the presenter is yet to be finalized. And I'll come to the program in a moment, I'm sure.
Well, you will, of course, let us know when that happens. But Mr. Abdullah, do you think that there is an absence of public discussion over these particular issues, that these platforms are necessary to ensure greater participation or greater voicing of these issues which affect everyone?
There's a lot of voicing of issues that affect people. So crime and violence, Salaries Review Commission, the whole process, for example, by which public servants get negotiations with the CPO, the relationship between the CPO and the Minister of Finance. There's a lot of discussion about issues, prices of goods and services in the country, how resources get allocated in terms of which regional corporation gets X amount of dollars, and is that sufficient to deal with the needs of the people? Flooding, for example. There's always a hue and cry that this corporation is not getting enough resources. So all of these things come back to the issue of governance. People say they don't see the MP until the next election. They don't see the councillor until the next election. That's a matter of governance. Some of it is related to the Constitution. Some of it is related to other important pieces of legislation that impact on governance, like the Municipal Corporations Act, which deals with local government bodies. The relationship between Tobago and Trinidad. Apparently the autonomy bills are back on the parliamentary agenda. That again is a matter of governance, a matter of the Constitution. So people are talking about these matters, but they don't necessarily tie them all back together again or see the interconnection between the issues. So yes, people are very concerned about the poor state of governance. They complain about the government not doing what they promised to do. How do you hold a government accountable? How do you hold members of parliament accountable? If you're not satisfied, you can't move them until the next election, and so on. Even internal matters within parties, postponing conventions and so on, and how internal elections are held, because the culture of a party also will be reflected in the culture of governance that they bring to the table. So people are talking about these matters all the time, but they don't necessarily see the connection between the concerns that they have quite correctly in their daily lives and governance in general and matters dealing with the Constitution and so on. So what we're going to interrogate on that day is, why are we in this condition? Why do we have a situation where the only way people can get some sense of redress or justice is by protesting, whether it is blocking a road when the road is bad and not being repaired, or whether it is people having to go to the streets and demonstrate over negotiations that have been left unresolved for decades and so on. Why do we have this type of situation that citizens feel aggrieved? Why do people feel left out of the process of decision making, that their concerns are not being heard, this disconnect between those at the top and those at the bottom of the society, so to speak? And it goes to the heart of the fact that what we have is really the old colonial state. And the old colonial state was organized and arranged in a way to serve the interests of a few, the colonial power brokers, the controllers of economic power, who by and large were expatriate and so on. And the structure remains the same. In essence, we have tinkered it at the margins, but it's remained the same. So we have governance arrangements that are not suited for our time. I did a TED talk about this some time ago. I think it was 2019, it was just before COVID. And I was saying that what we have is a system that is like an old motor car, or let me use another analogy. It's like a Me Too phone trying to run all the modern apps. It's just not going to work. I had a BlackBerry at the time, right? I was still using a BlackBerry at the time, which was at one time the phone, but it ceased to be able to carry WhatsApp and a whole set of apps. So I got on my BlackBerry and said, like trying to run all the apps on this phone, and everybody in the audience at Queen's Hall laughed at me, and that is where we are. We have institutions that are no longer able to deal with the interests and the demands of modern Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, we need to evolve, just like people, if their phones evolve from Samsung, whatever it is, or iPhone, whatever it is, to whatever it's gone to. Our institutions need to evolve to be able to deal with modern Trinidad and Tobago and the aspirations of everybody to have a fairer, more just society.
What an analogy to use, by the way. Something that I think everyone can relate to. But apart from discourse, Mr. Abdullah, is there an end result to this particular summit that is taking place on Saturday?
Well, the first one certainly had an outcome. It was late in coming because, as you correctly mentioned, our first activity, we did it on crime and violence. That session was at the end of January. We had a very good interactive process. It was a half-day session at Cipriani College all morning and so on a working day. And at the end of it, we pulled together the reports from the rapporteurs and the presenters and so on. The rapporteurs did the reports of the many workshop sessions that we had, what we call roundtables, and the presenters, and we took some time in pulling that report together. We did that again at the beginning of September, and we presented that to a number of government ministers and other officials. We have not yet had any discussions with anybody. There's one minister who did respond, and we're hoping to meet with him. But we plan to share that with, again, and try to meet with other civil society organizations that may not have been part of the round, that summit on crime and violence in January, to meet with them so that we could get broader and broader consensus on what has to be done with respect to crime and violence. Because to deal with crime and violence is not a short-term thing. It's not like saying, well, as the budget said, 500 new motor vehicles for the police. I'm not going to solve crime and violence, right? If you have a situation where our education system is routinely causing 55% of the young people who write CSEC not to get 5 subjects, including maths and English, when they write it. And that was the data provided by the Ministry of Education after CSEC exams earlier this year. And that has been going on now for 20 and 30 years. So if you have so many young people being impacted negatively by our education system and feeling that they have been excluded from opportunities for a decent job and a secure life, even persons who have degrees, they're doctors who are working on 6 months contracts in our public health sector. Now, that makes absolutely no sense. What future are we providing for them? Can they go to the bank and get a mortgage and buy a home and say they're going to build a family going forward? No. So we're not building a secure future for our young people. And in that situation, you're likely to get more incidences at one level of crime and violence, at another level of people migrating, and so on. So we presented this major report on crime and violence, and I'm certain that coming out of our discussion this coming Saturday, we are going to have another report on the issue of governance. I can't say what it's going to be because I can't preempt the discussion. This time around, we're not having roundtables or working groups to discuss the presenters' reports or presentations. We simply will have 4 presentations, each of about 15 minutes. We have well-known journalist and commentator and now independent senator, Ms. Suniti Maharaj. She'll be looking at the root causes of our crisis of governance. She's going to take a kind of broad view of our institutions and the experience from colonialism to now. And then we're going to have Mr. Anthony Paul, who's an energy and strategic advisor and consultant, who's a petroleum engineer or geologist, and he's going to be looking at the failure of governance to maximize our hydrocarbon resources and why there are certain things that have been happening that have caused billions of dollars of revenue to be lost to Trinidad and Tobago and Forex as a result of the absence of proper governance in the energy sector by the Ministry of Energy. And then we have Mr. Nizam Mohammed, attorney at law, former Speaker of the House, member of that National Advisory Committee on Constitutional Reform. He's going to speak as well about the importance of constitutional reform to civil society and the role that civil society ought to play in bringing about constitutional reform. And the first presentation is going to take a look at a new model for local government or investment in local government and how that could create employment and stimulate the economy from the bottom up. And so that's going to be a very interesting presentation. And well, as soon as I confirm that the presenter for that, I will let people know.
I'm curious to know, though. I mean, I know previously in this discussion you've explained the issues really affecting TNT at this point in time, and that will continue to impact TNT unless there is some sort of intervention. But again, why these 4 areas of topics in particular were chosen for this summit? You know, with all that we are facing and going through right now, why these 4 areas?
Firstly, in terms of Senator Suniti Maharaj's presentation, we need to get to a understanding of why we have a crisis of governance in the first place. Yes, and so she's not necessarily going to speak about the Constitution and so on, but why do we have this crisis of governance? Why do people feel excluded from the process of decision making? And why do we have institutions that are routinely failing? Why is there a low level of confidence in our national institutions, whether it be the judiciary or the police service or the cabinet and so on, the parliament even? So that is necessary to set the framework. There's been a lot of discussion around Forex and, issues relating to the energy sector. And we felt that because the energy sector is the driver of the economy, because what we have is what people call a rentier economy, where the government primarily gets revenue from the energy sector and transmits that revenue to the rest of the country through employment and contracts and so on. So when the energy sector is in crisis, everybody's in crisis, whether it is access to foreign exchange, whether it is employment and economic growth and so on and so on. So we need to address governance of the energy sector. And so that's hence Mr. Paul's presentation. That's kind of straight economic, if you wish. Then the issue of constitution reform and why have we not gotten constitution reform? I went back to the Hyatt Commission and going back to the 80s under the NER. You could go back to Dr. Williams and the Wooding Commission of Constitution Commission, which produced a major report and then proposed, for example, proportional representation or a mixed system of proportional representation on first past the post. And Dr. Williams then went in Parliament, and when the report was laid in Parliament, and rubbished the issue of proportional representation, as Dr. Rowley did recently with respect to this committee's recommendations. So you have this clash between what is being proposed in constitutional reform and what the sitting political power brokers wish to have in their own interest, which reads party interest. So Mr. Nizam Mohammed could address some of those questions and so on. And then, people are feeling the pinch on the ground. There's unemployment, there is underemployment, and so you see contracts for road works and drainage being given out to a few big contractors. And the model that is going to be presented is going to say, let us do this thing differently. Let us try to strengthen local governments' interaction. Because you're probably too young, Keaton, to remember when the county councils, all of them had steamrollers, and the workers who did the grass cutting and all of that were employees of the county council. Yes? Now, all of that kind of disappeared. So on one hand, you have CPEPs and CPEP contractors, and on the other hand, you have contracts being given out to private firms to do the work that used to be done by local government. So in a sense, we're going back to that and saying this is how you could get economic activity in each electoral district if money is put into each electoral district, and there are 141 electoral districts in the country. So if money is coming into each electoral district, equal amount, then people in those electoral districts could get employment. Businesses could be providing the goods and services required for the work to be done, whether it is minor repairs to state buildings, whether it is drainage works or minor road works and so on. And therefore, you're trying to stimulate economic activity in communities and build communities and strengthen communities, which is vital to the issue of dealing with crime and violence and so much more. So that is why those four were chosen. And of course, after the presentations, I'm sure that we have about an hour and a half to 2 hours of open discussion and questions, both from the live audience who will be at Cipriani College. We don't necessarily expect a large live audience, but we will have a live audience at Cipriani College. And then those who have joined us online, we'll be able to take questions and comments. And I'm sure, therefore, the discussion will be broadened beyond what we have defined as those four issues, but all those four topics that are being presented.
Mr. Abdullah, where can people get information should they want to attend or participate? Can people
attend?
So,
yes, so the People's Roundtable does have a Facebook page, and so they could go to the People's Roundtable Facebook page. We do have an Instagram account as well, but I'm not sure what that is. But you can go to the People's Roundtable Facebook page. There's already a flyer up for that, and I'll be putting up the link on that Facebook page. And I did share a media release which had the link, and I'll put it back out, and hopefully the media will also put the link for those who wish to join. In hybrid, there is no cost to attend either in person at Cipriani, the College of Labour and Cooperative Studies, which is at Valsayn, Church Roosevelt Highway, Valsayn. And, we want to thank the college for, once again, enabling us to function and have our event there. So people could come there, and the live stream is going to be via Zoom webinar. The Zoom link has already been set up, so we put that up on the Facebook page later today. And people could therefore just click on the link, and they can, and we're going to redo the flyer shortly, and the redone flyer will have a QR code, and those who are hip can scan the QR code and get the link that way.
No Me Too's. Those who don't have a Me Too.
and they'll have to come in person. They'll have to come in person, yes. Yeah, that's why, yeah.
Finally, Mr. Abdullah, and I don't mean this in an offensive way to anyone at all, but as you mentioned, there are lots of issues affecting young people, such as doctors working in Mount Two, who are on 3-month contracts or 6-month contracts, and it doesn't make sense that you're a contract life. Banks have now adopted measures to try and allow these individuals to get loans or mortgage, or whatever the case may be, but it's still very, very difficult. So that's just one example. But do you think there needs to be a greater participation from the future generations of Trinidad and Tobago in these discussions?
Yes, and I like to think of what C.L.R. James, the title of one of his books, which was called The Future in the Present. It's out of print. It was done by Alison and Busby, Margaret Busby, who has Trinidadian heritage and so on, and Ghanaian heritage, published that book sometime in the early 80s. And it's now out of print. I myself don't have a copy of it. But the future in the present suggests that it is not really future generations, but it is the current generation who have to determine what happens to the future of Trinidad and Tobago. And so, yes, we hope that young people will participate in this exercise. And so I know, like, the Students Guild of Cipriani College is a member of the Round Table, as well as the Trinidad Youth Council. And I have some calls to make sure that they mobilize some people to be part of the discussion on Saturday from 2 to 5, in person at Cipriani College of Labour and Cooperative Studies, and online via Zoom webinar. Governance in Trinidad and Tobago, that's what we'll be dealing with.
Very much indeed. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning, Mr. Abdullah, and of course all the very best to those participating in the event on Saturday. So thank you very much for informing us of it this morning, and of course we hope that more people will reach out, as this week more information will be released to the public. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. And there is an email address, which is peoplesroundtableTT@gmail.com. I hope I have it correct, peoplesroundtableTT@gmail.com. And there is a phone number as well to call, but I'm sorry I don't have that number in front of me, but I'll share it with you. And I think you may have a press release on it, and I forgot to put it up, what that phone number is. But if you do have the press release that I would have sent out about a week or more ago.
I've got the number here. I was actually looking for the email as well, but the number is 678-2495. That's
well, that's my number. That's my number, which people can call 678-2495. But the People's Roundtable also has a phone number, which you would have to go back to the People's Roundtable press release. Sorry about that. I'll send it to you. Yes, but people can call me. My number is out there, 678-2495. It's not WhatsApp.
I don't have the number for the People's Roundtable. I've got your number here on the press release, but I do have the email address, which is peoplesroundtable.tt@gmail.com.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks for that correction. I appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Abdullah, thanks very much for joining us on the program this morning. All the very best to you.
Thank you, Skeeter, for having me.
Take care. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for more information, you can reach out to the People's Roundtable. There's the social media platforms that are available, of course, and you can email the peoplesroundtable.tt@gmail.com for further information. It's taking place this Saturday. It's a hybrid session. You can attend in person at Cipriani Labour College or via Zoom. But as Mr. Abdullah mentioned, the flyer is being redone. It will be released. It will have a QR code. If you can just simply scan it to join the conversation, or the information, the credentials for the Zoom chat room will also be released on the People's Roundtable social media platform later on If not today, certainly this week. So thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah, once more for joining us on the program. And of course, we look forward to the discussion, but also what comes out of this discussion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it signals the end to this edition of AM Prime. Thank you very much to all my guests for joining me this morning, and thank you, the viewer, for being a part of AM Prime. To my team in studio, and Ryan Gomez, Burke, and Milewood, of course, for their continued hard work and efforts. We are grateful to them, and of course, to Nimi McNish, thank you guys very much for all your hard work. I'm Keaton Shaw. I remind you, today is a good day to have a good day. It's only just starting, so a lot of possibilities are still there. Let's make it happen. Let's make it work for ourselves. We'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
This is Face of Sports